Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic for you today. Scary at times. Let's do it. What's the scariest thing that a doctor has ever told you? Something's a little not safe for work. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. It was to my husband. I was in the room. I'm not going to figure out what it is. If it was serious, you'd be dead by now. Later, we found out that this doctor was the one that my husband's uncle was seeing before he was diagnosed with colon cancer. By the time another doctor found it, it was too late. He said there was no way it should have been missed. When I was 19, my primary care doctor, male, told me he could do a pap smear for me at my physical. When I told him I already had a gynecologist, he said, I can do it professionally or personally. Needless to say, I never saw him again and reported him. This was overheard by a friend of mine when a neurosurgeon looked at the CT of her son's brain. There's no point in doing this one. This kid is done. I'm out of here. The good news is another neurosurgeon did the surgery, and the kid, now about 40, is perfectly fine today. Another story I heard while working in a hospital but cannot verify. A guy was gravely injured due to being shot in the face. There was no chance of recovery, and he was expected to die within a very short period of time. An intern walks into the room and says, "Is this the guy we're going to harvest the kidneys from?" The doomed patient was reported to have reacted by briefly bolting up into a sitting position. I hope it is not true, but they did get the kidneys. My doctor immediately said my symptoms were from an STD, then doubled down saying I was lying about my sexual activity. Like, dude, I'm a grown-ass adult. If I thought I had an STD, I would have said so. I told him I thought I had a kidney infection. He said it didn't make sense. Did all the blood work, all negative for STDs. What was it? A damn kidney infection. Although he asked me before I left how I knew it was a kidney infection, I told him I'd been watching House MD, and the symptoms matched. I would constantly complain to my doctor that I couldn't breathe when I would walk, and I would get shortness of breath. I was always tired and fatigued. I would get dizzy if I walked too long. She always brushed it off and told me to get more sleep or drink more water, even though I was getting plenty of both. Finally, I made an appointment to talk to her face to face, and she flat out just told me I was lazy and needed to exercise more. I was so embarrassed because I went with my husband, and she made me feel like I was just this lazy couch potato. I switched doctors, and my new doc decided to do blood work, which is something that the other lady should have done in the first place, and found out I was severely anemic to the point of needing blood transfusions. I felt so much better after I got my infusions. Some people just shouldn't be practicing medicine. Well, looks like you're probably going to go blind. While I have visions of myself walking about tapping a white cane in front of me, he blithely adds, "But don't worry about it. Corneal transplants are 99% effective. You'll be fine." I did have transplant later, when eyesight got bad enough to warrant it. They worked a miracle, but man, lead with the "you'll be fine next time." This reminded me momentarily of the doctor from Arrested Development. I don't know if any of you ever watched that, but it's pretty spot on. So yeah, probably should have led with the first part, but good. That I had bipolar disorder. I was medicated for it, it didn't work, so he kept increasing the dose. Eventually, I was taking 800 milligrams of Seroquel a day. I was so doped up I couldn't read. Dropped out of college, I couldn't sleep without it anymore. And when I tried, I stood up for almost a week. Had to move back with my father because I wasn't able to care for myself anymore. Tried to kill myself a couple times. Ended up under observation. Doctor considered shock therapy. After almost 10 years lost, I had switched doctors, found a good therapist, and started the process to remove the meds. Turns out I'm not bipolar. I'm autistic. I don't have mania. I have sensorial overload and hyperfocus. I act weird when put in chaotic situations because they overwhelm me. After 2 years of therapy, neurologist, and psychiatrist appointments, and hundreds of pages of diaries and reports written, I finally got a proper diagnosis, and I'm free from that. I'm not getting those 10 years back, though. My mom died during that time, and I'm not getting her back either. I'm in college again, but the opportunities I lost are gone forever. And the doctor? He's still out there, getting paid by the effing drug company to push their product. F him. I have an effing doozy for you all, if I'm not too late. My sister called me in tears, saying she couldn't even stand up, she was in so much pain. I absolutely boosted to her house, find her vomiting in so much pain she can hardly move. Got her in the car, got to the hospital, they moved her into ED pretty damn quick as she was screaming in pain. My champion of a sister managed to answer their questions whilst dealing with the worst pain of her life. She did her best to comply with their exams, etc. Eventually, a doctor comes in and says they suspect she has an STD that is causing the pain. Except, there's no STDs showing up on their panels. He tells us it's his best guess, tells us we can be on our way, and leaves the room. Cue my sister vomiting in excruciating pain. Every time she moved, we pressed the call bell, and they asked what was up. I said there's absolutely no way we could leave the hospital with her in this condition. The nurse just scoffed at us, then left. We were left in the ED with my sister vomiting in pain, telling me she was going to die. Every call button press resulted in literally no one coming to see us. Or, if they did, we got told there were bigger emergencies than you right now. She had at least 7 buckets of sick sitting on the shelf from how much pain she was in. And no one saw us for about 2 to 3 hours, not even exaggerating. She was eventually transferred, because we became too annoying I guess, to an observation unit overnight. I had to go home because they wouldn't let me stay. The next day, I got there. My sister was an effing shell of herself. She was literally gray and said the pain was still there. She just didn't have the energy to fight it anymore. I told her since she was in hospital, at least she was safe. But she told me she legitimately thought she was going to die. A day later, she calls me. They finally did an ultrasound after 3 days. Apparently, New Zealand hospitals have no ultrasound technicians on for holiday periods, and told me her ovary was twisted around a ridiculous amount of times. She said they have to operate right effing now. She's lucky to be alive. The hospital wouldn't allow us to have any documentation about her operation or anything. They told us it was not her information to have. What? The fact that doctor wrote her off as having an STD and never looked into anything else until the last moment when she was going septic sickens the F out of me. And the fact ovarian torsion is a medical emergency, whilst we were being told there were bigger things to worry about, I'm just glad she's still effing here. 3 years ago, I went for an eye test. The optician gave me a note and told me to go directly to an eye hospital. I gave the note to reception at the eye hospital. The lady said, "Oh, right, come this way." I was taken right through the waiting room and put in a CT scanner within 20 minutes of arrival. Shortly after, a doctor came and said that there's something in the middle of your brain and that an ambulance is going to take me to a neurosurgery specialist hospital. A few hours later, I was having a drain put into my skull to get rid of a built-up spinal fluid pooling behind my eyes. An MRI scan revealed a golf ball-sized cyst in the middle of my head that was causing problems. That was a pretty bad day. Why were they so secretive about it? I mean, just be like, listen, you have a cyst in your head. I don't know. Oh, glad you're alright. A couple of years ago, went to the doctor for headaches and stress. I run my own business. He sent off for some tests and an MRI because of the headaches. I never have had headaches before. Told me to take a vacation and relax, that I was probably just overworking myself and stressed from my business. So, took the whole family, wife, kids, dog, and a nice getaway to the Smoky Mountains and rented us a nice private cabin and had 5 whole days to relax and take in the beauty of the Smokies. Got to our cabin around 4 p.m. It was amazing. Indoor pool, billiards table, indoor putt-putt golf, and an arcade room, all ourselves. I know it sounds extravagant and expensive, but we actually paid like $1,000 for the whole week. I thought it was a great deal for everything that was included. Woke up the next morning excited to check out Pigeon Forge, and the kids wanted to go kart and all that. Well, 8:30 a.m., I checked my email against my wife's advice, and I see an email from my doctor with the results of my MRI. It read like this: Mr. X, the results of your MRI have been reviewed by our medical team, and we found a large brain tumor on all of the scans. Please contact us immediately to schedule more testing and to speak with the neurosurgeon. Try relaxing on vacation after reading that. TL, DR, went on vacation, found out I had a brain tumor. If the headaches and tinnitus are still present in a month, come back and see me again because it's probably a brain tumor. And with those few words, my then doctor triggered a years-long battle with health anxiety. It wasn't a brain tumor, just a sinus infection. At 30, I was rushed into hospital out of the blue with a heart infection and needing a valve replacing. The professor was absolutely brilliant, but she told me off the record that you may want to get any close family to come and visit and sort out any important paperwork, as it's not guaranteed that you'll wake up again. I obviously pulled through, but her honesty was reassuring, and even after 10 years, we still send the odd handwritten letter to each other. We also had these stupid personal televisions at each bed, which cost about £2 an hour to watch. The money would seriously rack up, as I was in there for weeks, but she blagged me a pirated code so that I could watch it for free. In middle school, I was seeing a psychiatrist for generalized anxiety and panic disorder. I had been struggling with my weight because I was too anxious to eat, and at one point, I was about 15 pounds underweight. I started taking antidepressants, and I gained weight once my anxiety started improving. One day, my psychiatrist brought me over to a scale so he could weigh me. He told me that I needed to watch what I was eating because I was starting to get fat. I was finally at the low end of a healthy weight after struggling for months, and it was such a blow to my self-esteem after all the progress I had made. I broke out in tears as soon as he said that. It crushed me. My mom yelled at him, and we walked out of his office and never came back. That I obviously didn't dislocate my knee. I had put it back in myself before I went to ER because it wasn't swollen out like a balloon. He then proceeded to push my knee down flat after it had seized in a bent position to put a stretchy bandage on it. I went back 2 days later because I had lost feeling in my toes as the knee had pinched nerves. They did an MRI, and I had a complete tear of the ACL, and my bones in the shin bone and femur were bright white from the bone bruises and fractures. I absolutely dislocated my knee, and the doctor just smashed my knee down and said, "Off you go," basically. Ow. That sounds painful, terrible. Sorry that you went through that. Hope you're doing better now. I was newly clean and had to have most of my teeth pulled. The dental surgeon poked around at my healed-over track marks, then brought all his staff in to look at them. Then he began accusing me of taking cocaine and Xanax the night before and threatening he couldn't put me out because that. I literally did not understand what was happening. It was humiliating on a level I cannot explain. I was already humiliated and embarrassed at the shape of my mouth. Now this? All I could do was politely sit there and take it. Wait for him to finish with all his little hate and do his job. Asshole.